Good afternoon. Canadians are bracing for a lengthy trade war with the U.S. following the breakdown of negotiations between the two sides.
50% U.S. tariffs are now in effect on a variety of Canadian goods. And now U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening even more levies. Trump's post on Truth Social reads in part, Canada's been ripping off the United States of America for years. Their ridiculously high tariffs on our farmers and farm products has made life impossible for these great American patriots and has long created a $60 billion deficit between our two countries. Not sustainable and not anymore. On January 1st, 2027, tariffs on all cars, trucks, both large and small, automotive parts and steel will be increased to 50%. Build in the U.S. and there are zero tariffs. Canada will be treated like a state no longer on trade and in other ways. Also, they are among the worst nations in the world to deal with. They feel entitled, and yet we don't need Canada. They need us. They do 95% of their business with the U.S., with us. The exact opposite. Now, in response, Premier Doug Ford has some strong words for Trump during an appearance on News Talk 1010 this morning.
Well, he can kiss my ass as far as I'm concerned. We're going to go at him full steam. And we buy 400% more cars than anyone in the world. Maybe I have an idea. We'll get Danielle Smith on board so the cars that they're manufacturing won't be able to fill up because we'll be controlling the oil and the gas going down there. And maybe what we should be doing is charging him triple on the oil, triple on the potash, on the uranium, on our, our metals and our rare earth metals. You know, that's what we need to do. We need to throw everything in the kitchen sink at them.
And CTV Sean Leathong has been speaking with Torontonians about the ongoing trade war and joins us live with reaction to all this. Sean.
Well, Nathan, many Canadians may have been surprised to wake up Saturday morning and find out that a deal had not been made, and in fact that Canada had walked away from the negotiating table. So the question is, are Canadians behind Mark Carney and his team in finding the best possible deal for trade with the United States? Well, an Angus Reid survey said that about 76% of Canadians are backing the Carney government's decision. Now, we spoke to a few people today and asked them about what they think will happen next and how they feel about the idea that 50% tariffs will be levied on roughly $28 billion worth of Canadian goods going to the United States.
We have to. There's no choice. But I think, the U.S. is such a big economy. At some point, we'll have to make a deal. I think maybe it's just about weathering the storm right now with Trump.
It would be worse if the Americans got the way because we don't know what they would do next. They're not interested in honoring contracts at all. They can't be trusted.
Yeah, I think Carney is standing up for Canada and following suit with the tariffs.
I don't think Donald Trump is to blame for us taxing our own oil production, for having interprovincial tariffs, for paying our farmers to throw milk down the drain.
Just fighting a good fight for the best of Canadians, I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, what else can you do?
Exactly.
Can't give in.
So it seems like Prime Minister Mark Carney does have the backing of the majority of Canadians, but this is, of course, just the beginning of this round. It's been going on for 18 months, but we know that those tariffs are now hitting Canadians. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump threatening to have more coming on January 1st, 2027. We have yet to see what Prime Minister Mark Carney will do in his dollar-for-dollar retaliation. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Michelle, send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Sean. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling on the Prime Minister to reconvene Parliament amid the ongoing trade war. Poilievre sent a letter to the Prime Minister which reads in part, Canadians elect Parliament to defend their interests and decide the hard questions. Those questions can no longer wait. He adds, the official opposition has a duty to ask questions and hold the government to account. That is why I write to ask you to reconvene Parliament without delay. It goes on to say, in a crisis that defines the future of our people and our country, Conservatives are ready to return to Parliament to act with the urgency our people demand and to put Canada first. The letter also lists the three urgent matters that Conservatives would like Parliament to address. The first is transparency on the abandoned deal, including details on the deal the government read and rejected. The second is the true cost to Canadian families, outlining how much the government's trade and economic policies will cost Canadians. The third matter is the defense of Canadian jobs and industry, calling on the Carney Liberals to explain how they plan to protect jobs in the steel, aluminum, lumber, and auto sectors.
And still to come, we have continued coverage of the trade war between Canada and the U.S. We'll have more on the future of the fuel excise tax suspension a little later in the newscast. But to other news now, Hamilton police are looking to speak with 3 people who they say have critical information connected to a shooting at a private event early Sunday morning. Police have released images of the 3 men they want to speak with. Investigators say a shooting happened around 3 a.m. on Sunday in the area of Queenston Road and Parkdale Avenue South. They say a physical altercation between 2 parties led to shots being fired. Investigators are asking anyone with information to come forward.
There was a collision on Highway 6 this morning, but nobody was hurt. Police say a tractor-trailer hauling steel was heading northbound on Highway 6 in Freelton around 3:30 in the morning when it hit a construction barrier. The truck then crossed all lanes on the highway and hit the barrier on the other side. The crash led to a diesel spill. OPP say charges are pending following an investigation.
One person has been taken to hospital following what police are describing as an industrial accident in Etobicoke. This incident happened on Milton Street near Royal York Road and the Queensway. Paramedics say they were called to this area for a workplace injury. A man was taken to a trauma center with serious, non-life-threatening injuries. An investigation into the incident is ongoing.
And an investigation is underway following a suspicious fire in Ajax. Flames broke out around 5 in the morning near Roslyn Road and Harkins Drive. So far, no injuries have been reported, and it's unclear whether people were home at the time of the fire. Local residents spoke about the situation.
We woke up and, there was a lot of noise from the neighbors who happened to notice what was happening. And we came outside and just seeing the house was fully engulfed in flame and made sure somebody called 911. Fire department arrived really shortly after, and we were just happy that the neighbors were out safe.
My son was going to work at around 4:45 a.m. and he went to grab his Uber, and I guess he saw the flames. So he came running in the house and he was screaming, "Call 911, call 911." So I called 911, and in that time he had run across the street and he was just outside yelling, "Get out, get out," because we don't know which houses are occupied. Most of them are not. I think there's only 2 that actually have occupants.
An investigation into the cause of the fire is ongoing. There are delays downtown after a large tree came down near Sherbourne and Dundas.
Toronto Hydro is working to clear this tree while a couple of streetcar routes have had to be taking a detour around this area. CTV's John Musselman has been following the cleanup effort. He joins us live now with more on what happened, John.
Well, Michelle, I can tell you the cleanup continues at this hour. You can see behind me this large tree is across Dundas Street. This happened at about 6:43 a.m. according to a neighbor who tells me he did see it happen. He said it slowly fell over onto the roadway. We'll show you some video from the scene here. When the tree went down, fortunately no one was hurt. There was very few cars or pedestrians on the street at that time, but it did cause some problems for the overhead streetcar line. So it affected 2 lines here. Those streetcars had to be diverted because of this tree lying across the road and the power lines to the streetcars affected. So we've had this area sealed off now for a bit of time. They're still working at it. They haven't even started cutting the tree up yet. That'll be the next process. Right now, they're just trying to reattach some of those streetcar lines. Meanwhile, we had a lot of people out here this morning taking pictures and looking at this. They really couldn't believe what they saw. Here's what they told us.
This is crazy. I'm biking on my way to the gym, and I was kind of wondering what was going on with that streetcar, and I came down and there's a tree in the middle of the road that's huge. Must be an old tree.
That's quite a big tree, eh? I mean, I don't know. How long do you think it's going to take before the TTC gets back? Maybe all day. And it looks like they're working hard on the wires, but I mean, I don't know, but that's one big tree, man, I tell you.
Now, we've also reached out to the City of Toronto, the Forestry Department. They say the priority now is to get this tree off the road, but they are all taking this very seriously, saying they'll be investigating what may have caused this tree to fall. They're also asking people if they see trees that look like they're in distress or look like they could be in need of trimming or even coming down, they want to hear from people by calling 311. Reporting live at the scene, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, John. The city's announced plans for affordable housing in Trinity Bellwoods.
3 years ago, when I became mayor, affordable housing had almost stopped being built. So the city staff and I and city council, we set a target 65,000 new homes for Toronto, with a good percentage of them affordable. And we want to be the housing developer also. We used to do that. We used to, at City of Toronto, build 32,000 units of housing. And then we stopped.
74 rent-controlled homes are being built on the site of a former Green Pea parking lot at Ossington and Dundas. 17 of the homes will be low rent, while 40% of them will be 2- and 3-bedroom units. The city says the homes will be built on by a Canadian company, creating 200 new jobs in the trades. The city says the project is part of the housing plan to develop 65,000 new rent-controlled homes by 2030.
Time for our first look at the forecast on this Monday, and look at that skyline. The sunshine playing peekaboo again today after what was a super soaker weekend, although it wasn't a total washout, but we got a ton of rain, and there's still more in the forecast. I think the good news is, Lindsay Morrison, that there are some beautiful days ahead. I think a lot of people are just shocked. It's fresh out there. It feels a lot cooler.
It feels a little like fall today, in my opinion, Michelle, at least early fall. Temperatures are still in the teens in most areas at this time. And yes, you saw a live look there, some clouds, some fog. Here's a current look at the satellite and radar, still dealing with wet weather in places. We continue to be unsettled for the rest of the day today with a westerly wind. Temperature-wise, we're at 19 degrees right now. Here's a look at your day at a glance, 22 for the high. That's it. Coming up, we'll give you an idea of what's in store this week and show you some of those lovely days that we do have. That's ahead. For now, Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Back to our top story, the escalating trade war. Prime Minister Mark Carney making an announcement in Quebec. Let's hear what he has to say.
Nouvel accord commercial global. Nous avons été pragmatiques, patients et persévérants.
We persevered. The goal was to seek a deal that would protect Quebec and Canadian workers and their families, that would strengthen our economy, and that would respect Canada's sovereignty and the French language and culture.
The goal of our trade negotiations with the United States has always been to get the best deal for Canadians, never a deal at any price or on any time frame. The best deal. Le meilleur accord pour les travailleurs, les familles.
The best deal for Quebec's workers and families.
Progress. We did make some progress in recent weeks. In the end, that momentum reversed, and we could not accept what the U.S. had offered, nor could we give what they asked. And by standing up for our values and focusing on what we can control, we will build un Québec fort in Canada for all.
Quebec strong, Canada strong
Now,
for all.
that's not to say there won't be challenges in the road ahead, but we're ready to meet them because we have all we need right here. The workers, the engineers, the ambition, and the right plan for a stronger Quebec and a stronger Canada. Building at home and diversifying our trade abroad, that's not plan B. It's been our plan A from the start. Et la semaine dernière, à St. John's,
Last week in St. John's, we launched the largest clean energy project in the history of North America. Premier Frechette, I must thank you for your real leadership, the leadership that you demonstrated in leading this project to its successful conclusion. Thank you.
Un peu de contexte.
To give a little context, this project will allow us to produce enough clean electricity to power all of Canada's electric vehicles, to power our economy under our own conditions for generations to come. That's what it means to be masters of our own destiny, and that's what it means to be masters here at home.
Diversifying trade is also fundamental to building a stronger, a more independent, and a more resilient country. Over the last year alone, Canada has signed more than 20 trade and security deals across 5 continents. We completed our most recent trade deal with the United Arab Emirates in a record 47 days. Canada is now the best connected economy in the world. Canadian businesses now enjoy tariff-free access to 1.5 billion consumers. Over the next 6 months, we will double that number through new trade deals with ASEAN and India. This fall, we will begin intense discussions with the European Union, the world's second-largest economy, to build a much stronger and deeper economic and security partnership. Now, we can build such unparalleled access because we're trusted, because we're reliable, and because we have what the world wants. But our connections depend on accessible, secure sea routes that carry our world-class products. The St. Lawrence, one of the world's great trade arteries. In 1959, determined to build our own future by connecting the St. Lawrence to the Great Lakes, Canada opened the St. Lawrence Seaway, 7 locks, 300 kilometers, built in just 5 years. Près de 37 millions de tonnes de marchandises.
Near 37 million tons of merchandise travels along the St. Lawrence Seaway each year. These can be iron ore extract from Boom Lake and sent out from this city. Canola grown on a farm in Saskatchewan and sent by train to the port in Montreal. And the 12 million metric tons of Canadian cereal exported last year alone. That's the highest volume in over 3 decades. We're also building in order to go further. Earlier this year, on this same waterway, we approved the largest port expansion project in Canada's history, the new Contrecoeur container terminal, which will increase the capacity at the Montreal port by 60%. Just 4 months ago, I think it was, Mr. Lightbound, we expanded customs services at Quebec ports under Mr. Duclos' project, and designating it as the first port of arrival. The Quebec port is becoming a strategic point that will contribute even further to the economic vitality of Quebec City and Lévis. Higher capacity, more trade, more Canadian products going out to the world. Every container going through this terminal, every ton transported on this waterway, it depends on the labor and maintenance of our waters. And it needs powerful watercraft to cut through the ice and continue to travel on these waterways, and these are Canadian icebreakers, and it's Canada that will construct those ships.
Today, we're announcing the largest shipbuilding initiative in Quebec's history. The Government of Canada will invest more than $11 billion to build 6 new program icebreakers for the Canadian Coast Guard in partnership with Chantier Davy. We'll move fast. The first steel, Canadian steel, the first steel will be cut next fall. The first ship will be delivered 5 years later, and the first full fleet, and the full fleet will be in service 5 years after that. The new icebreakers will replace the Coast Guard's aging heavy and medium icebreakers. They'll work in Atlantic Canada, the St. Lawrence, and throughout the depth of winter, and in our Arctic throughout the summer. Les brises-glaces que le chantier Davy va
the
construire
icebreakers that the Lévis shipyard will be building will be high-tech icebreakers. Each one will be specially designed and built for Canadian waters and strong enough to cross a channel that an oil tanker can follow, but also narrow enough to be able to navigate our waterways and lakes. The Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence and Atlantic Canada. These will all contribute to ensuring maritime travel and billions of dollars of trade every year. They will break ice, escort ships through frozen waters, and will clear ports and docks that our commercial fishers depend on. And in the Arctic, during the shipping season, they will open up waterways for ships that will be transporting supplies, merchandise, and workers that our northern communities count on. It is thanks to these icebreakers that trade exchanges can continue to take place 12 months a year in Canada.
Today's announcement continues the shipbuilding tradition in Lévis that stretches back 2 centuries. 2 centuries. Since 1825, Davy has built hundreds of vessels, including 35 warships for Canada and our allies during the Second World War. Today, we're building on that proud legacy, investing in Canadian shipbuilding on a scale not seen in generations. Chacun de ces 6 navires sera construit
Each of these 6 ships will be built right here in Lévis, built by Canadian workers and using Canadian materials.
À lui seul, ce contrat permettra de
This contract alone will help to create and maintain nearly 5,000 jobs,
pendant la phase de construction.
and that's just during the construction phase. It will contribute up to $650 million to the Canadian economy annually. It will support welders, electricians, plumbers, and painters who are carrying out this project, and the engineers and designers that are behind all of it. These will be long-term careers here, not just jobs, but long-term careers, and at that, well paid. That's important. And when this shipyard gets up to speed, the entire community will benefit from
the work of this
that.
immense contract doesn't stop at that shipyard gate. More than 1,500 suppliers from across Canada will support the work here at Davy. That means steel workers at Algoma Steel in Sault Ste. Marie, fabricators at Brennan Steel in Brampton, Ontario, steel specialists at Stigerstall in Hamilton, all working together, producing and preparing and supplying the high-grade marine steel that forms the backbone of these ships. It also means designers and manufacturers at Humboldt Industries in Chester, Nova Scotia, supplying the advanced marine equipment that these vessels carry. Les travailleurs d'échafaud plus à Laval qui construisent les
the scaffolding and heating workers in Laval building that specialized equipment. The aviation deck constructors in Val-des-Monts. I have a cabin in Val-des-Monts. And they will be also contributing. I do things for Val-des-Monts. They will help to increase the heliport capacity that will increase the scope and efficacy of these naval ships. The Almaco group on the other side of the river in Quebec that is clearing spaces where these workers will live and work. Parts fabricated by Canadians across the country will come here to this marine shipyard, where qualified workers will then transform them in some of the highest performing ships ever built. This work is part of something bigger. Earlier this year, we launched the Canada Defence Industrial Strategy. We are committed to rearming and rebuilding the Canadian Armed Forces and the Canadian Coast Guard. And we are committed to investing in these sectors by building here at home.
Today's announcement is an example of our defence industrial strategy in action. When Canada builds our own ships, the benefits are felt across the country by design. And you know, the sovereignty of a country that has the world's largest and longest coastline depends on our strength at sea. The Coast Guard is central to that strength. And when Canadians see that distinctive red hull coming over the horizon, they know that our waters are being watched over. They know help is at hand. They know that the way ahead will be clear. Notre gouvernement réalise des investissements sans
Our government
précédent
is
dans la
making
garde côtière
unprecedented investments in the Canadian Coast Guard
la durée de vie
in
de la
order to
flotte
extend the useful life
livrer
of
de
the current
nouveaux
fleet,
navires scientifiques
delivering
et des
new
hélicoptères
scientific
qui
ships and
renforceront
helicopters
les activités
that
menées
will
toute
help
l'année
to
dans
support the
l'Arctique,
activities carried out throughout the year in the
que
Arctic.
des brise-glaces polaires de
In
nouvelle
addition to
génération,
polar
dont le
icebreakers
Polar Max,
of the next
qui est
generation, such as the
construit
Polar
ici
Max,
au
that is
chantier
being
Davy.
built right here at the Davy
Aujourd'hui,
shipyard.
nous veillons à ce que la garde
Today,
côtière ait
we
tout ce
are
dont
working hard
elle a
to ensure that
besoin
the
pour
Coast Guard has
continuer à
everything that
répondre
it
à l'appel,
needs in
pour
order to
assurer la
continuing
poursuite des
answering the
échanges
call,
commerciaux,
to
pour protéger
continue
nos
our
côtes
trade relations,
et pour maintenir
protect
la
our
force
ports,
de notre économie
and to
pendant
maintain
les
the strength
prochaines
of our economy over the coming decades.
To finish, last week, we launched together the largest clean energy investment in North American history. Today, we are launching the largest shipbuilding contract in Quebec's history. No matter the headwinds, the work of building Canada strong goes on uninterrupted. No matter the circumstances, Canadians will take charge of building our future. Aujourd'hui, nous bâtissons de nos propres mains.
Today, we are
Ici
building
même
with our
chez
own
nous, des
hands
navires
here
qui vont permettre de
at
garder
home,
ouvertes les voies maritimes
ships
dont
that will
notre
keep
commerce dépend.
our seaways
Aujourd'hui,
open and that our trade
bâtissons
depends on.
un Lévis fort.
Today, we are building
Québec fort
Levis strong,
et
Quebec
Canada
strong,
fort.
and
Merci
Canada
beaucoup.
strong. Thank you very much.
You're listening to Prime Minister Mark Carney in Quebec, coming off an incredibly trying weekend in which trade talks with the United States collapsed, this trade war escalating to new heights. His plan at this point to reassure Canadians that we are masters of our own destiny, announcing more than $11 billion for 6 new icebreakers made with Canadian steel, made at home. The idea of 5,000 jobs, hundreds of $millions in economic activity to build more at home, but then also diversify trade abroad. This is a developing story. We'll continue to follow this, but for now, we'll head over to Lindsay.
Well, it is the end of August, or at least approaching it, so this is pretty typical that we see our temperatures start to cool ever so slightly. In fact, our average high is now about 24 degrees, and today we expect to hit 22. Many communities barely climbing into the 20s, though, and it'll be teen temperature highs for some today. Right now, Fort Severn is the hotspot of the province at just over 20 degrees, and yeah, it is a bit of a cooler week compared to the last couple. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
All right, let's talk about the forecast. We know that we've got a month left this summer, even though it kind of unofficially ends in a few weeks, Labor Day weekend. But today it felt like you're feeling a bit of a change.
I hate when you get that little bit of evidence, you know, but it's not over. If you look at the forecast, what Lindsay's telling us about, it's not too bad. Can we just say welcome back?
Oh, thank you.
Glad
Yes,
you
I was
had
out for a little bit. I was gone for a minute. But I'm back. I'm safe. I'm sound. Don't worry, everybody. Everything's fine.
We held down the fort. A lot happened news-wise and weather-wise. Yes, the sun will come out tomorrow.
The sun will come out tomorrow, says Michelle, says Annie. And yes, if this is a week of summer holidays for you at home, you do have some good-looking days to look forward to. It's not as hot as it's been at times this summer. In fact, we are trending, as we typically see at this point in August, a little cooler overall. And there is at least one more day where we are going to be unsettled. Let's get to your forecast. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Another weekend with some very unsettled weather. Rainy, my goodness. We had significant rainfall. This is what it looked like early this morning. The clouds trying to part, the sun trying to shine, but we are still dealing with some leftover showers and periods of rain in places too. Let me give you an idea of just how much rain fell this time around with a rather rainy weekend. Over 50 millimeters in the city of Toronto. And if you were one of the thousands of people who had outdoor plans on Saturday night, you know exactly what this is all about. Suez Crossing, that is near Sudbury or just to the east of it. 72 millimeters of rain this weekend. And again, it is still raining in places around Lake Simcoe, for example. We've got some wet weather reaching toward the city of London and Niagara. Another soggy weekend for you. I'm sorry to say it's been a bit of a rough summer. The center of this low is now starting to push into Quebec. So we're going to start to see the showers taper off as the day goes on. We're not completely in the clear just yet. We do hang on to the opportunity for wet weather through the rest of this afternoon and early evening. The overnight should be drier. And then tomorrow, we are back into sun. Wednesday looks similar, mix of sun and cloud at the very least. Wednesday and overnight into Thursday, it's possible that a few showers could creep their way back in. And then Thursday itself is our next unsettled day, but hopefully it's just going to be a one-off this time. We're at 19 degrees in Toronto. It's only 16 degrees right now in Muskoka. You'll find a 20-degree temperature this hour in Windsor, Ontario. And we're anticipating that we will be somewhere close to 20 degrees around 7 p.m. tonight. But as mentioned, there is the chance of showers for the early evening. So if you're hoping to maybe hit up a patio, just be mindful of that chance. Overnight tonight, drier, generally speaking, near normal. 15 degrees is what we're forecasting for a low. And then this is looking like a better day tomorrow to head to the CNE, 25 degrees and a little humid once again, feeling like the upper 20s at the very least. However, tomorrow, you will find more sun in places, a little more cloud in others, and north of the GTA, as well as communities east of here, you're still having a better chance of seeing a quick passing shower tomorrow. So yes, it's been a bit of an unsettled pattern. Tuesday and Wednesday look pretty nice here around the city, and I just want to preview for you the early part of next weekend. How about a Saturday with a mix of sun and cloud? Let's hope that holds. That's the forecast for now. Michelle, back to you.
That's just what we need. Thank you, Lindsay. The Blue Jays are in the thick of the wild card chase, despite dropping their series to the New York Yankees over the weekend.
Fly ball deep towards right field, carrying and gone into the second deck.
The Jays fell to the Yankees 8-3 in the final game of their weekend series. The team now sits 1.5 games out of the final playoff spot in the American League. They are set to host the Kansas City Royals for a 3-game series starting tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays will take on the Chicago Cubs in next season's Little League Classic. MLB making the announcement yesterday. The game will be played on August 19th, 2027 in Williamsport, Pennsylvania during the annual Little League World Series. The Atlanta Braves and Milwaukee Brewers played each other in the 2026 Little League Classic yesterday, with the Braves winning 4-2.
The Temple were shooting for back-to-back wins when they hosted the defending WNBA champs in Vancouver last night.
And a steal from Rice with 5 seconds to go. Nurse!
The game was close through the first half, but the Aces pulled away late. Las Vegas went on to win the game 88-78. The Temple will be back on the court on Wednesday when they square off with the Seattle Storm. Meanwhile, the Tampa will be without guard Brittany Sykes and forward Inessa Morrow for the rest of the season. Sykes is out with a foot injury, while Morrow has a knee injury. Star guard Marina Mabry is also missing time with an adductor injury. She'll be evaluated in a few weeks, but it's unclear if she'll return this season.
Still to come, the health benefits of running with a stroller. We'll have those details when we come back.
Stroller while running is a great way to get exercise without having to find childcare. As a bonus, it can also be a great way that the baby can finally fall asleep. That's important.
Now, a new study shows a third benefit. It helps reduce running injuries compared to running without a stroller. For more, we're joined by, look who it is, CTV Science and Tech Specialist Dan Riskin. Okay, what was discovered here?
Well, basically they ran the numbers for new parents running with a stroller and new parents running without a stroller, and the people running with a stroller are far less likely to get injured. It's about a 36% reduction in injuries, but if you correct for the fact that people with strollers just don't run as far as people who are running without strollers, you do it sort of per 1,000 miles run or whatever, it's a decrease of 55%. So, I mean, when you've had a kid, you're tired. You're likely to trip on the cement. You're likely to twist an ankle. But it's not just ankle twists. It's also injuries like plantar fasciitis. People that run pushing a stroller are just far less likely to get injured compared to people that run without a stroller. So if you're a new parent, yeah, it's not a bad idea.
No,
that looks fun. With the rollerblades?
Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah, burn some calories and the baby goes to sleep.
Yeah.
So keeping it balanced for those who choose not to have children, apparently there's a study looking at how they feel about economic incentives.
Yeah.
And that won't make any difference. What's that about?
Yeah, so there's a big push in a lot of, especially U.S. states, to try to get the population up. They're worried about not enough people having babies and what that's going to do to the economy. And so they do things like say, well, if you have a baby, we'll give you $1,000. And if you've had a baby, you know that like $1,000 doesn't even start to make a difference to what how your life is changing economically. But they ran the numbers here and they did some surveys with people, and what they find is when people make a decision that they don't want kids, end of sentence. Like, we're not talking about maybe someday or we're not trying yet. We're talking about, I've decided I don't want to have kids. Do these incentives make any difference? They do not make any difference. What's likely to make a difference is people's gender, their politics, but it's not the economy. It's not how populated it is where they live. The big driver really is just what they've decided to do with their lives, and money really makes no difference at all.
So then why have the incentives?
Yeah, well, this is what the study's sort of saying to these governments is a little bit. I mean, you might be able to push people who are talking about having a kid someday to moving that timeline up a little bit. But when people have made a decision, it has a lot more to do with what's going on in their lives than it does with, an extra couple bucks here or there.
Let's pump the brakes on kids. Let's talk about before kids, just meeting someone. A lot of times when you talk to people who are newly dating, or how'd you meet? And it's online. That's the way people do it. And there's some new research regarding dating websites and specifically what to write on your profile.
What to write on your profile. I like this study. They brought people into the lab and they had them fill out a profile for themselves. And then they were presented with some, believing that these were real people. But really, it was an experiment and the faces were all the same for everybody, so they could control that experiment. So you've got equally attractive, but different bios, and different people can choose how interested they are. And it made a huge impact. People that wrote very, very few words, like, I like to run, and that's the whole thing, nah, it doesn't do much. And if people that wrote like a novel about their feelings about dating and the Civil War and whatever else they wrote about, too many words does not work. Both of those are somewhere around 20% likelihood to get a click. If you're in the middle and you've got just enough information to get people interested, but not too much, that's where you could double the likelihood that somebody would click. So if you find yourself on a dating app, it's the Goldilocks solution. Don't write too little, don't write too much, just write the right amount.
Good to know for a friend.
I know, we're all locked up.
Yeah, but it's good to be able to give the advice, right? Oh, it's easy, just write the right number of words. What they didn't do in the study was tell you which words to write. So that's what I was looking for, was like, okay, so should I write about, random bat things, or should I write about, my feelings about relationships, or like, what is the content that makes the biggest difference?
And why do you want to know?
Well, I'm just curious, academically. Believe you me, I've got enough problems. I don't need that problem in addition to everything else. Happily married, etc. But that said, it is an interesting question, and they really didn't answer it, because what makes Shakespeare great isn't the number of words, it's what Shakespeare wrote, right? And so if you're going to write a good sort of, you're writing an ad for yourself. The number of words is sort of the beginning of where it gets interesting, but it's not the interesting part.
Okay, we'll follow that little nugget away. Thank you, Dan Riskin. Appreciate it.
Thank you for almost wrecking my relationship with my wife.
You brought it up.
We'll try it again next time.
Not a chance. Have a great week, Dan.
Thanks.
Still to come, voting on a new
Get
contract.
Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Voting on a new contract for WestJet flight attendants wraps up this afternoon. Flight attendants have had a week to vote on whether to accept or reject the deal. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says the tentative agreement includes a wage hike of more than 18% over 3 years, as well as new compensation for work done on the ground. The deal came after lengthy negotiations, which included a single-day strike by roughly 4,400 cabin crew during the August-long weekend.
Canada's big banks are expected to deliver another strong performance when they report their third quarter earnings this week. Canada's major lenders have navigated tariffs, weak economic growth, and a sluggish recovery in the housing market. The resilience has driven their shares higher, leading to money managers and analysts watching closely for anything that could indicate volatility for shareholders. Big Canadian banks have seen their stock prices rise sharply this year.
Coming up, bringing heated rivalry to Ottawa. We'll have more on the start of production for the second season of the hit series when we come back. Production has begun on season 2 of the hit series Heated Rivalry.
Ottawa is featured prominently in the storyline of the upcoming season, and businesses in the capital are hoping that means production will be coming to the city soon. CTV's Judy Trin has the details.
Shane Hollander, I wanted to introduce myself.
Okay. This heated rivalry has Ottawa roots. It's the hometown of fictional hockey star Shane Hollander and the city where his Russian love, Ilya Rozanov, will soon be at center ice in the show's highly anticipated second season.
Gay relationships, especially with men, I think it often portrays a certain brutality which is depicted in the beginning of the series, but the fact that it becomes more tender and emotional, I think is really important in showing human relationships.
While locals are openly displaying their affection for Bell Media's Crave hockey drama, so far, filming for season 2 is staying away from the nation's capital. But the Ottawa Film Office says it's actively engaged in discussions to bring the cast and crew to the city.
I am surprised that they're not shooting the series in Ottawa. I mean, I would think that would make sense. It's, you know, there's lots of ample opportunity to do a series here.
In Rachel Reed's book, the favorite hangout for Ilya and his teammates is in Ottawa's Glebe neighborhood at an old tavern named Monk's, which sounds a lot like Irene's. In the book, the pub has scratched up wooden tables, a TV behind the bar, and sticky floors.
Would you take a look at this table? Aren't your feet sticking a little bit? Yes, it definitely is.
The show has previously featured a taste of Ottawa, orange cream seltzer, after Dominion City Brewery sent the crew a pallet of flavored water.
It was way more than we expected. We figured maybe there'd be like a logo tucked in a corner on a board in the show, something like that. And so for like the main character to be shooting a City Seltzer commercial, we didn't know to expect that, and it was pretty incredible.
Even the Prime Minister couldn't contain his enthusiasm for the hit show earlier this year. For now, production is only scheduled for the Toronto area and Montreal. But it's hard to rival the capital's central casting.
I feel like it makes a TV show or any film just so much better when you get everything that's in the location it's supposed to be and what the author dreamed it to be.
Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Well, we've had the kind of weather that makes you want to stay in and watch a steamy show. It's chilly. We're still drying out from all that rain, but nicer days are to come this week.
They are to come. Today, we might still get a little bit of rain in some places. There's areas that have a better chance of that happening today than others. But yeah, tomorrow, the day after that, looking pretty good. And overnight tonight, we're going to dry out as well. Here's a look at what you can expect temperature-wise. Seasonal, 15 degrees for a low. That's what we expect at this point in the month of August. Tomorrow, A little warmer once again. Temperature back in the mid-20s. Sunshine will certainly help with that. And just a couple of weeks of this camp day forecast left to go. So tomorrow looks like a good one for the kids. I know it's really only about 2 weeks until the kids are back to school. So your 7-day forecast looks like this. Couple of great days ahead to check a few things off your summer bucket list. Thursday, we're watching for the possibility of wet weather once again. Slight chance of a shower on Friday, but a pretty decent looking day. And then the weekend, at least the first half of it, should be dry with a mix of sun and cloud, but generally speaking, our temperatures are trending a little cooler than normal overall. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.